guys, it's Austin and Jeanette,
If you're new here, consider subscribing.
where you can hear all about how to build your wealth and define your legacy. So today we're going to be talking about things that you need to do after your fully funded emergency fund and after you pay off all your debt. So that includes retirement, home buying, and if you have kids, an educational savings plan. Are you ready for it?
It's coming up next.
Hello.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Austin and Jeanette.
Yeah, so tonight has been kind of a crazy day. So we didn't have work today because it was Martin Luther King Day, and the weekend was also crazy because we were potty training. So the newsletter did come out. It came out like 15 minutes ago. So if you're used to it coming out on Monday morning, sorry about that. So please forgive us, but it's out. It's in your email box right now. So check it out, and that's something you're going to want to get in on because it's pretty awesome. So this week we're going to be talking about 3 specific things that you need to do after you pay off all your debt and after you have your fully funded emergency fund, which is, again, 3 to 6 months expenses, depending on what bracket you're in. And we already talked about that. But if you have questions, just email us. It's cool. I got you, girl. So those 3 things are retirement, home buying, or paying off your home if you already own a house, and 3 ESA accounts, which is an education savings account, and that's if you have kids. But if you don't have kids, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I'm going to move over to our newsletter so you can just kind of see what we got going on over here. All right. So these steps, like I said, are done in tandem, so you need to do them all together. So the first thing you want to do is that 15% of your household income into retirement savings. So, we've listened to a lot of millionaires. Let's be real. I probably know like 5, right? I don't know like a whole bunch. But we are constantly looking for people and are investing in people that are millionaires so we can hear their story. So we can give you all the latest information. And we found out that most millionaires become millionaires through retirement planning. Not from credit card points or cars or anything else. It's legit, hard work, saving money, and doing it the good old-fashioned way, putting money in the bank.
Yeah.
Right?
Very little millionaires ever inherit money. It's just the way America works, is that most people spend their money before they die, and most people don't generate generational wealth. So most millionaires you see today have made it the hard way, is hard work.
Grind.
Yeah.
Grind. Okay. So, like we said, so this is cool because I found this out earlier this week. If you save $500 a month in a 401k, IRA, a good growth stock mutual fund, which is like any of those retirement funds, from 30 to 65, which is not even in the game, ahead of the game, it's just generally in the game.
Yeah.
You will be a millionaire.
For sure. We're talking average rates of return, and we're talking so when we talk about that $500 margin, most people's car payments are around $500. So
or more.
Yeah. So if your car is $500 or around that ballpark figure, then your opportunity cost is that your car payment is preventing you from retiring, or your car payment is preventing you from being a multimillionaire.
Is your car really worth $1 million? Let's be real, because mine's not.
Yeah. I would say our old cars definitely used to prevent us from getting financially wealthy.
Man, I wish I could show you guys our fleet right now. It's ugly.
Trash fleet.
But we have new priorities. It's not keeping up with Joneses. It's being cool in retirement.
Yeah. Doing what we want to do, being financially free.
Yeah.
So, and that can be you. Just, you gotta make the right choices. So today we're going to talk to you about the different kinds of accounts when we talk about retirement. Just a few of them. And a lot of what we're going to cover is going to be in week 8, and that's going to be a deep dive into retirement and retirement investing and how those things should be split out and what kind of things you should invest in. But today we're just going to go over an overview of what it means, what 401ks are, what Roths are, IRAs, and mutual funds.
So to be honest with you, I always thought that these were confusing. When I first entered the job market, I think I was 16 or 17, And one of the jobs that I had was at this plant where you simple things. And that was the first time that anybody was ever like, oh, you can have a 401k. And I was like, I'm 20 years old. I have no idea what that means or like what is. Oh, it's a retirement fund. Okay, like I'm 20. I'm not thinking about retirement. Like, can you tell me more? No one could really actually tell me what it meant or how to use one or how to maximize it or what anything meant. And then when I got in the military, they were like, oh, just invest in the TSP. It's a retirement fund. And I was like, I know that's a good idea, but I still don't know what I'm doing. But we'll go all in depth in that, like he said, in week 8. But we just want to give you a brief overview of what those terms actually mean. Okay, so babe, explain to them. 401k.
So 401k is your company's retirement account. It is actually found in the U.S. Code 401 subsection K. That's why it's called 401k. Basically, these come out and they're tax deferred, and you can allocate them into different funds. But most of the time, they are controlled by your your employer. And once you normally leave that company, if you're not retired by then, you roll them into IRAs and accounts which you can control. But in this case, we're talking about 401ks, and you just want to make sure that you're investing 15% of those. Or if you see if your employer matches.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. Basically, seeing some companies, I think Jeanette's company invests or matches up to 8%.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can match up to the match, that's great. Don't do it if you're in debt. But in this case, we were not in debt in this step, so we want to make sure we're investing the full 15%. And if you're in a situation where it's your household, so if Jeanette's investing 15% already, then I can't, right? So we need to make sure that we're not over-investing, doing 15 pots.
Right.
Or, you can manage what you're doing with that.
And it's 15% total, so like, let's say my company matches 8%, then the rest so that's 8%, but that might not be 8% of our income because we both work, right? And then the rest of that percentage of the 15, we'll probably put it in an IRA or something like that. So that way he can either max out his IRA at work, or we'll have like an IRA that we can use that's just independent from any company.
Yeah. So if you're in the military and you have a TSP and you decide to get out early, most places roll those into IRAs like USA, and they're normally without penalty, so that you can control your IRA as an individual retirement account. And this could be one of two things. You can have Roth or unroth. Roth has different caps than traditional IRAs. In terms of the TSP, your cap, I believe this year is 19,000. And Roth is 5,500, but they grow differently. One at the end of when you start withdrawing, I think it's 63 and a half. When you start withdrawing, then you won't have any taxes to pay. So you're sheltering your money from the government, which is great. And the other you will have to pay, but you can contribute more. So there's definitely a balance there, but everyone I've talked to in the financial industry has always gone with the Roth because you don't truly know what tax bracket you're going to be in when you retire, and you just don't really want to have to care about all those kind of taxes and things like that. So tax sheltering is an amazing thing to do, and if it says Roth, just do it.
All right, so now we're going to talk about growth stock mutual funds. So
mutual funds are just a conglomerate of people who have piled their money together and bought, it's kind of like ETFs or index funds. It's kind of hard to get into, but mutual funds is if I had 10 stocks and everyone chips in $100 and we buy those stocks together mutually. And so when we go into Dave Ramsey breaks it down to 4 quadrants of things you need to invest into in mutual funds. But we'll go into that in depth into week 8.
Right.
But that is definitely something you should look at investing into in this step when you're allocating your 15% is good growth stock mutual funds, IRAs, with good stock growth stock mutual funds, and 401ks. So.
Okay, so after you kind of decide where your money's going to go, probably before that actually, you should have a dream meeting, which means you sit down with your partner, your accountability partner, your spouse, whoever that person is. For me, it's this guy. And we're going to sit down and we're going to say, what does retirement look like for us? Like, what are we going to do when I turn 60 and he's still 15? What are we going to do? What does that look like? Do we want to travel? Do we want to, I don't know, just lounge around? Do we want to sell our house and buy a motorhome? I don't know. Like, probably not. But but that's things you need to talk to with your partner. Like, okay, so retirement is not just an age. It doesn't even have to be an age. It's more about how much money do you need to get to your dreams to be able to fund the rest of your life as well.
Yeah. Most people don't actually ever take that time to sit down and make this step happen. They define maybe you defined your vision early on in this process when we're going over these videos, and so maybe that might be your retirement dream, or maybe your vision was just to get out of debt, and you might need to rethink hey, I'm gonna get out of debt. What does retiring look like for me? It's definitely something that most people don't think about. They sit down and say, hey, what's my 5-year goal? Maybe, right? A lot of people don't even spend time budgeting or thinking about those kinds of things,
day,
right?
What am I eating next week?
Right.
Things about that. Let's think about long term though.
Yeah, let's think about future self, 64 and a half, 63-ish you, right? Or maybe you want to retire early, one of those weird people like us who, maybe retirement's 18 to 20 years down the road. What does that look like, right? You're still young, you don't want to work till you're dead, right? Or you do want to work, but you want to do something meaningful. What does that look like? So
some things people might have dreams of is more family time. That could mean, I'm just going to hang out with the grandkids all day. Owning a lake home, spending quality time, or empty nesting. That could just mean I just want to crochet all day. When you start to plan this, it's always important to talk about a time and a date because they have to be SMART goals, remember? Like all of our goals have to be SMART. Specific, achievable, meaningful, time-bound. You have to be able to say all of these things. It can't just be like, I want to go to the moon and hang out on Mars with Mr. Tesla. What is his name?
Elon Musk. But they have to be measurable. They have to have a time, a place. So you're saying, like, when you're thinking about this dream meeting, it has to be like, I am retiring, let's do the math, I am retiring September 2060, that's not when I'm retiring, but like, let's just give it a number, right? I'm retiring then, it's going to be April, the sun's going to be out, like, and I'm walking down the street and I'm freaking calling my boss and telling them,
I quit!
Yeah, or something, It has to be that specific, right? And then you start working backwards. What am I going to do here to get there? What am I going to do there to get there?
How much money am I going to need to get there? Like, start planning those numbers because that's your goal. Your goal is not just the time, but it's also the money because you have to survive.
Yeah, there's a cool tool. So one of Dave Ramsey's affiliates, Chris Hogan, has this product. Chris Hogan, he's on his website, Chris Hogan 360. It has a retirement calculator, so you can kind of do the math on what you want to do, how much it's going to cost, and what kind of savings it will take to get there, and if that plays into your 15% role. But 15% into retirement is going to get you there, no matter what.
And think about this. You're always going to get a pay increase, typically, right? Like, if you stay at the same pay you were at today for the next 15 years, it's kind of impossible. Like inflation and all that other stuff. It's kind of impossible. So think you will continue to make more money, but you're just taking it off what you make today. So it could be even less time because you are expecting to get a pay increase. So keep that in mind too. So, alright, so now that we've talked about our dream meeting, we are going to go into Kids College Fund.
Yep. So there's 2 forms of accounts that you want to look at when looking at saving for your kids' college. So there's different steps of life you could be in at this point, but you want to make sure that you take these into account to maybe even just sit down and think about if these are worth your while. So educational savings accounts, or ESAs, is the first one we're going to go over.
Yes.
So these ones are capped at 110 single and 210 jointly. So if you make over those figures, then you can't contribute to these.
Yeah, we wrote down here. It's 110,000 single and $220,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay.
So the minimum or the maximum you can contribute to an ESA is $2,000 a year, which we did the math. It works out to about $166 a month. Which, if you're debt free, you should definitely be able to make that happen.
Or just stop going to Starbucks.
And that equates to after 18 years, a big lump sum for your child of $120,000. And you can contribute $2,000 per child, so that works out really well. If for some reason you make more than the figures we gave you, then you can contribute to 529s. But you want to make sure those 529s always allow you to have all of the funding, because there's really bad options out there where you don't have control of your money anymore, and you want to make sure you do. And so I would read up on a lot of different 529 plans to get the best bet out there. But there's a few circumstances we want to go over. As one, your child might be 3 or 4 years out from college, right? And you might not have enough time to save for them to get to those figures. But let's say your kid's 8 years old, for example. We wrote, if your kid's 8 years old, just 10 years, your contributions would be $38,000, which is still a good few, 1 or 2 years of
like public school.
Yeah.
Like, if your kid is a genius and they need to go to Harvard, by all means, do what you gotta to get them in Harvard. But if they're average, which I was average, take them to a community college.
Yep.
At least the first 2 years where they can either, one, establish that GPA where they can get maybe some grants and scholarships for the next 2 years after that, and they've got all their core classes out of the way. And it'll be really cheap, and that $30,000 will probably get them through at least those 2 years, and maybe that third year.
And ESAs are tax sheltered.
Yeah.
Which is great for you. And maybe your kid doesn't want to go to college. Maybe by the time, so this is my theory, right? And I'm going to say for my kid's college just because, right? But let's say I think 18 years from now, I don't think college will be the same as it is today in America.
No.
I think that a lot of things will be online, a lot of things will be free, there'll be a lot of free education, a lot of things like that. Not to say people are entitled to having college as a free resource. I'm just saying that I think it will change dramatically on the way people are taught.
Right. I mean, I'm sure those are the big ones, like lawyers, doctors, that kind of thing, but for everyday entrepreneurs, nah. Cybersecurity, probably not. Stuff like that. Stuff that you can just learn on the fly on the internet. I don't really see people going to school for that. Okay. Did you know that 79% of millionaires did not attend a private school? And some states have free community college. Hello? Like, if my state had free community college, I would not have joined the Air Force. Which means I wouldn't have met this guy, so thank goodness for that. However, I didn't want to pay for school. I was like, this is stupid. I'm not paying for education and stuff. The military can pay for it. And they did. So, yay. So there are some things you can do if you don't have the money to put your child in school. There are some things you can do. Okay, so we said select an affordable school. They don't have to go to a name brand school. Yes, everybody wants to go to UNLV or Georgia Tech or whatever, but let's be real. Not every school, you don't need to go to every school. First of all, and second of all, nobody cares. If you're a doctor and you are doing your job and you're really good at it, nobody actually asks you where you graduated from. Nobody cares.
Yeah. So I think that the biggest factor I see with people who carry large amounts of student loan debt is they decided to go out of state. So the differences are astronomical in terms of in-state schools are averaging at $9,500 a school year, and out of state schools are $35,000 a school year. So imagine your kid is 8 right now, and you were able to save up that $30,000 for them, $38,000 that we mentioned previously. So in an out-of-state school, that would last them 1 year. But in an in-state school, you'd be able to a little over 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, pretty close to graduation, right? Like, I think those are good figures.
Yeah.
And so you can see how much more you're paying, and you're not getting value out of it.
Right.
So
number 2 is we say apply for scholarships, grants, and work studies. So a lot of people don't actually do this, and there's tons and tons and tons of scholarships, grants, and work studies that do not get used. They just get recycled to the next year, to the next year, to the next year. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do, like African Americans, single moms, or low income, or whatever. There's something for everybody, even like generic white guy. There's something literally for everybody that can get a scholarship or a grant. They've got the Pell Grant. Sometimes you just gotta write an essay, which is super easy. You just write an essay and they'll give you some money. They've got one for I see this all the time for like spouses. They have one, like military spouses. They also have one for spouses, like not spouse kids of military members and stuff like that. You just gotta look. The VA's always giving out stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, there's free money out there.
Yeah. Third one is get a job. So people who work have a higher GPA because they know how to manage their time. They know how to make two things happen at one time. They aren't just free to go do what they want, because half the time the kids that don't work are sitting around playing video games all day. They're not studying 90% of the time. They are just hanging out. But the kids that do work, they have to prioritize. Okay, yes, I have to work. I have to make money to get to school. And two, I have to make all A's in these classes, and I'm more dedicated than somebody who's just given a free ride. I'm not saying that you're going to give your kid a free ride, but I'm saying, like, people who have to work have a different mentality than those who don't.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. Let's just like. Alright, so that is the kids' stuff. Well, education stuff, really. So the final step is paying off your house early.
Yep, so these are all done in tandem. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be paying 15% to your retirement, you're going to be funding your kid's education account, and whatever extra you have, you're going to be pushing towards the home, right? And this is where you see the greatest freedom, right? If you don't have a home already, and maybe you're renting, right, that's fine, because rent is temporary, right? And it gives you tons of room to save up, and we recommend that you save up at least 25% of your down payment to make the purchase on your home. If you can't go 100% down, that's fine, right? But we should get as close to that as possible, right? But if 25% down, it avoids PPI, payment protection insurance, that it makes the banks make sure it's insurance for the banks so that if you go into foreclosure, they are protected against that. So, but we also recommend if you're taking out a mortgage, you're getting a 15-year fixed rate so that you can actually pay it off within 15 years. But we see that the average person who goes through these processes pays off their house in roughly 10.5 years. And then because of that, they become a millionaire.
Right, because then they have assets. It makes their net worth become over $1 million, not like they have $1 million in cash. But if they needed to, they could sell their house real quick and get that $1 million in cash. So, those are the three things, right? We talked about what those retirement accounts look like. We talked about 401ks, IRAs, and stock mutual funds. Then we also talked about ESAs, the 529 and the
ESA. Yeah.
The ESA and the 529, and that's all based on your income. And then we also talked about the house buying. So, again, with the house buying, if you are renting, keep renting until you can afford at least 25% of a down payment. I know it's going to take a while, but trust me, it'll be worth it.
For sure.
And you limit liabilities that way. You don't have to worry about buying new air conditioning or whatever. You just call your landlord and say, come fix this, dude. And they've got to come fix it. So, if nobody's got any questions, then that is pretty much it for tonight. So, what we want you guys to do this week is talk to your partner about your dreams. So really buckle down on your dream planning and figure out what that looks like. So that means either write it down in a notebook, make a board, like a vision board for it, or something. Just get it down on paper, in words, with those SMART goals, so that way you know exactly what your focus is on. Not just for debt-free, but for long-term life. And that's all we have for you tonight.
Yep. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.
Bye.